Let's see what's out there.
Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield Presents Let's See What's Out There, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Star Trek Picard Season 3, which is available to watch on Amazon Prime or Paramount Plus, depending on where you are geographically. My name's Keith Isles, and as ever, I am joined by
Pete Mealy.
And we are both film and television enthusiasts. And in today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled discussion around the first episode of Season 3, Part 1, as they're calling it, The Next Generation. So be warned, spoilers ahead for that sort of thing. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. We hope you enjoy this type of content. And if you do, please do consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you do indeed hit the bell icon, you will get notified as and when new content drops. We cover all sorts of things on this channel, film and television related. It's not just Star Trek, although this particular show is focused on that. So please do check us out. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. This is the first show of this year, just generally for the channel. Just a lot of stuff's happened. I won't go into it all now, but a lot of stuff's happened this year, which sadly has caused some delay in content. And I know we had some shows planned that weren't released. We were going to look at Avatar, The Way of Water. We were going to look at the Benoit Blanc Knives Out, Glass Onion franchise. We were going to look at Top Gun Maverick. There's all sorts of things, film and television related, all sorts of genres, countries of origin, all of that sort of thing. And sadly, as I said, due to various circumstances, that's got slightly delayed. But the reason I'm bringing this up is if you are watching this and you get to the end of this and there is content that you'd like us to cover, what films or television, then please do indeed put that down in the comments section below and we'll look at it and see what we can come up with for sure. So yeah, we'd be delighted. Again, if you are new to us, we do have a little bit of an agenda for the show. As I said, we talk about the episode in some depth, so it's definitely a spoiler-filled show. But we have a bit of fun. We look at the behind the scenes and give credit to some of the creatives behind the projects, and then we have a bit of fun looking at some Easter eggs and connections to other areas of Star Trek or other film and TV connections in general. We have a little bit of speculation as to where we think this season or the next episode is going, and then we really get into it with our thoughts and our rating for the episode, and then we give you some information of how to contact us if you wish. So that's basically our format for this. So are you ready, Pete?
Yeah, I've got my little fat Enterprise model and I'm ready.
Yes, I did like that little joke during it. Well, we'll get ready and engage.
Beverly Crusher is basically alone on an old ship when some bird-faced foes show up and she kills them, then calls JLP for assistance. Jean-Luc Picard is in the process of getting ready to sit at a beach to accompany Laris as she's going to a diplomatic mission. But then he gets the message, contacts Riker, who is looking for an escape from his family, and they go off to the Titan. Meanwhile, we see Raffi has slid back into life of drugs, and she pumps her dealer for some information that she can use to get back into Starfleet. He tells her something big is happening with the Red Lady. Raffi turns out to be undercover and is trying to figure out who stole some experimental transport technology, but her handler only communicates digitally and isn't very helpful. Back on the Titan, in command is a captain coded as cruel and demanding, but the second officer is 7 of 9. The Titan captain won't let the two has-beens commandeer his ship. He has orders, thank you very much. So 7 of 9 helps them do it anyway, and they steal a shuttle. They meet up with Beverly's ship, but Beverly is in stasis, put there by her son, not Wesley. And right about then is when the bad guys show up. Raffi gets to Starfleet recruiting headquarters and the big red lady statue in front of it, just in time to see it transported 100 feet up in the air and crash back down again. Who did this and why? Who's attacking Beverly? We will have to find out next time.
Very concise as always, Pete. So I feel like we've got a lot to unpack in this episode.
Yeah.
By the way, I meant to say as well, for anybody that's just tuned in for this, we have obviously previously covered seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. We did season 1 purely as a podcast, audio only. Season 2, we moved to this marvelous technology of video stream, of vodcast, if you like, and those are indeed available on this channel if you look through the back lists. So I thought it was fair to say that, because we really did have opinions on seasons 1 and 2 of Picard. So we'll get into this one for sure. But before we do, it is time to make it so. All righty, so this is where we just have a look at each week. We pick various people from behind the scenes and the production side, just to give them credit where they're due and talk about some of their other work. So first of all, this episode was directed by Douglas Arniokoski, who we've spoken about before on previous episodes, simply because he did direct quite a lot of previous seasons of Picard. He's done 3 episodes of Picard prior to this. Been in the industry some years, has directed everything from Criminal Minds to Sleepy Hollow to Arrow and the Flash for the Arrowverse, Limitless, Star Trek Discovery, a number of those. He's done SWAT, Blue Blood, Charmed, and Clarice. So he's quite an experienced director for television, at least. And this episode is written by this season's showrunner, which is Terry Matalas. Now, again, Terry previously did some work on Strange New Worlds. He was quite involved with that, and I think that's what earned him the showrunner title for this season, the leading producer. I think it's clear to say that he is definitely a Star Trek fan, which I'm sure we will come into. He started his career writing for Voyager and Star Trek Enterprise, so he has indeed, been in the Star Trek world or Star Trek universe for some time. He also did writing for shows like Terra Nova and Nikita, the series. So he's done quite a bit of that. And in terms of show running, he was the executive producer of the TV series 12 Monkeys. And I suspect that he's not only put Star Trek Easter eggs in there, but probably a few from 12 Monkeys as well, which I guess we'll come on to. But some good work there for sure. Wanted to shout out, I try and always pick a guest actor at some point during this. So a shout out to Todd Stashwick, who played Captain Shaw, very entertaining character that I'm sure we'll dig into on this. It's been acting for some time. Actor credits, well, as I said, the aforementioned 12 Monkeys. He had a regular part in that show, playing the character of Deacon, but he's appeared in quite a lot of things over the years. He's appeared in Gotham, Teen Wolf, The Originals, Criminal Minds, Warehouse 13, The Dungeon Run, 911, Lone Star, to name just a few credits there. And then finally, in this list here, I really wanted to give a shout out to Stephen Barton, who was the composer for this show, because not only has he come up with some very good compositions of his own in terms of music for this, but he's also made many, many homages in this episode alone to Jerry Goldsmith, to Jeff Russo, to James Horner. You know, all the previous Trek composers kind of got a little bit of an audio shout out in this, as it were. His previous work has mainly been involved with video games. He's done quite a lot of composing in the video games world, things like Titanfall, Apex Legends, the Built by a Jedi, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, etc. So he's done quite a lot of stuff there. And according to IMDb, he is actually from the UK. He was born in Preston in the UK. So good to see a fellow Brit having made it in Hollywood. It's always a good thing to see. But there you go. That's a look at some of the creatives behind the scenes on this week's episode. Any of those names familiar to you prior to this, Pete?
What was his name? Todd
Stashwick.
Todd Stashwick. I recognized his face right away, and I was like, "Oh crap, what have I seen him in?" Obviously Terry Matalas, because you and I are big Enterprise fans, and Todd Stashwick was on Enterprise.
Did.
Yeah, and but the director and composer, no, I did not recognize those.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it is a different composer for this show to what we've had on the previous Star Trek shows, you know, on streaming. So it's nice they've given somebody else an opportunity, but of course, you know, they are producing various Star Trek shows concurrently at the moment. So lots of duties going on there. Right. Well, this next bit's just where we have a little bit of fun. It's where we have a little drink. So it's time to order some tea Earl Grey hot. I have mine in the appropriate mug.
You do, yeah. Very nice.
So I'm going to caveat to start with on this, saying that this is just a bit of fun. I don't know about you, Pete. I've only watched this once since its broadcast. Have you watched it 3 times already? Wow, I'm jealous. Here in the UK, we actually get it at midnight the following day to in the US. So I was up at midnight to watch this in the early hours of the morning. So I only watched it the once, and I've been at work all day. So I spotted some Easter eggs, but I know that there are channels out there on YouTube that are absolutely devoted to doing this and breaking down every single Easter egg. So we might not get every single one, but I have to say, I think I spotted quite a few. And also I was searching for photographs to put our slides together, and that did give me also a couple that I hadn't spotted just by Googling for photos. So yeah, full disclosure there. But Pete, and anything, you know, I'm doing a lot of talking as always. Anything that you want to throw out there first?
Okay, so I can run through my list, which might not be as expansive as yours. The opening is a recording of a captain's log from Picard, from Next Generation, I'm assuming, but I couldn't place the episode. I Googled Borg hiding in a dust cloud, and the only thing that came up were September 11th conspiracy theories. So I don't know what that's from. Is that from something else?
I think it might be from the Best of Both Worlds, but I'm not absolutely sure on that. So I would hate to misquote, but I think it's either from Best of Both Worlds or it was from that Q episode where the Borg first appeared. It's one of those, I think. Again, we like this show. It's recorded, but when it goes out there, we like it to be interactive. So please, if you're already shouting at the screen, or if you're listening to this and shouting at your stereo system or whatever, put it in the comments. Let us know. That's right, and we'll mention it in the next episode. Because I think it was from the Best of Both Worlds log, I believe.
We've got the painting of the Enterprise D that's in Chateau Picard, and he wants to send it to Geordi. And that was from the original. That was from Next Generation, right?
Yes.
That was on the ship, right?
Indeed. It was in his ready room.
Okay. Plus, we get to see the Resican flute again.
I knew you'd spot that one. Yes.
I spotted that one right away. That's one of my favorite episodes.
Which is, do you remember the episode name?
No, Resican? No, that's not it.
It's The Inner Light.
The Inner Light. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The big red lady statue is that the captain from yesterday's Enterprise, right?
Rachel Garrett.
Okay.
Yeah, the Enterprise C captain.
Yeah. We get to meet Geordi's daughter, one of his daughters, I guess. Which I liked. And this one's a stretch, but the enemy ship that shows up at the end.
Yes.
I thought that bore a lot of resemblance to Nero's ship in Star Trek 2009.
You know what? I thought exactly the same thing. And because I've only watched it the once, I was kind of thinking, I might need to address that. But I thought the same as well.
But it's not exactly the same, but it shares a lot of design principles, and it is massive on the size of, or on the scale of, Nero's mining ship. So
I'm wondering about that, because that of course was sort of the cliffhanger, and wondering exactly what that is and how relevant. I mean, the thing is, the show, it's so hard because the show itself, particularly this season with what they've chosen to do, is kind of a one big Easter egg in itself, really, isn't it? But and it's funny, we've got sort of visual Easter eggs, we've got plot Easter eggs, and we've also got audible Easter eggs. So there's quite a lot. But I put a few slides together. I don't think I got every one, but here's some stuff. So obviously, the first font at the beginning says, in the 25th century, to show us exactly where we are in the timeline here. But it's a very similar font and appearance to the opening of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which tells us we're in the 23rd century, as that film was. And obviously trying to open that to a new audience at the time as well. So I thought that, and a lot of the if you like, the typefaces and whatever that's being used for various credits and whatever is very reminiscent of the Next Generation series and some of the movies as well. So I liked that. I also liked the opening credit thing used, again, talking about score. It kind of used a mixture of music. It used some of Jerry Goldsmith's from First Contact, but then it also transitioned into Jeff Russo's flute music from the from the previous two seasons of Picard, which was good. Then I'm not too sure what the song was, but I don't know about you, but opening sort of in a nebula with the music really reminded me actually of the first season of Picard, which opened with blue skies and the Enterprise going through. So I thought I wonder whether that was kind of a audio visual Easter egg on itself, if you like.
Interesting.
Obviously, there's a few things on I think it's the SS Ilios, which was the ship that Beverly's on. and you see there that photo is not particularly good to show it, but there's some bits and pieces that foreshadow Beverly's character from various episodes. So you've got the flowers that were in one of my favorite episodes, Cause and Effect, which is a time loop episode written by Brannon Braga. She was pruning the flowers in that episode. Those were on the ship. There was also some pearls, which I believe was in a episode called The Big Goodbye. And one of the things that is the main thing there in the picture, I'm sure there were other things, is the equipment case was a container belonging to her late husband, Jack Crusher, when he was on the USS Stargazer. So, and you can just about see it on the front there. And then, of course, she also had some theatre masks, which we know from some of those holodeck episodes and whatever, that she was a big fan of theatre. So, so there were a couple of things there. Moving on to some of Picard's things, and I did, as I said, I found these photos online. So I should really quote or thank whoever put those up. But we can see some of Picard's stuff there, and as you absolutely said, you've got the Resicum flute from the Inner Light. You've got the Enterprise, as you said, the painting, which is good. There were also a couple of other things on his desk, but I couldn't place all of them. I think one of them was some sort of ornament that he was given in one of the episodes, and he also had that thing on the back of his chair on the headrest, which he used to have on the Enterprise as well. So so that was good. Also, we've got obviously the space station, the space dock, very reminiscent of Star Trek 3, the search for Spock, and the bit where they leave that is kind of a mixture of that and the bit where they leave space dock in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, and they tell Savick to take the helm, and in this case, 7 of 9, sees them out, and I thought that was very reminiscent, and musically. There's a lot of not only Goldsmith, but there's a lot of James Horner type theme in there as well. So I thought that was quite good. The other thing I noticed, and I don't know what the technical name for it is, but when they were coming aboard, they blow that whistle thing.
Oh yeah.
Just like they did in Star Trek 2 and 6. And it even looked like the same prop,
It's also in All Things Must Pass. They replay that encounter at Farpoint.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was that. You've already mentioned the red statue that she was looking for. The red lady was a memorial for Rachel Garrett, who was the captain of the Enterprise C, and obviously died in the events of yesterday's Enterprise. So she was a hero, so it made sense that she sort of had a memorial there. And the bit where we meet Sydney LaForge, Geordie's daughter, kind of reminded me as well of when in Star Trek Generations, when we meet Sulu's daughter, and they say, it wouldn't be the Enterprise without a Sulu at the helm. And obviously Geordie, for the first couple of seasons of Next Gen, before he got promoted to the chief engineer, he was actually the helm's navigator on the Enterprise D, wasn't he? So I thought that was quite good. I've also got a little picture of Beverly there. The reason I've put that, I don't know whether you thought this, I thought her jacket was reminiscent of the away jackets from Star Treks 2 and 3, with
You're
that sort of collar.
Right.
It kind of made me think of that visually. We also get the new USS Titan, which obviously the Titan was the ship that Riker took command of after Star Trek nemesis. So in those lost years, if you like, and this apparently is I think they called it a Neo Constitution class refit.
Yeah.
And I noticed it had the A suffix to the registration number, a bit like the Enterprise did, because that always bothered me. They did that with Enterprise, and we never really saw that with any other ships. So I love the fact that they did that. Sorry, I'm saying a lot. Oh, sorry, let's not get there yet. So yeah, sorry, whoops. Other things. God, I didn't rehearse clearly. Other things that I've scribbled down here were you'll like this one because it's an Enterprise one. So they mention that I think they're calling it Frontier Day is coming up, hence why they were selling the, if you like, the little models like the Eagle Moss type models with the fat Enterprise D that nobody wanted and stuff like that. Well, that would make sense because he said 250 years going boldly, right? Well, the Enterprise NX-01 in Star Trek Enterprise was launched in 2151. So that would mean if this is, the 25th century now, and they're going into that, first year of it, that would be exactly 250 years. So I like that. I like the way that kind of loops back to that. And then the other thing I noticed is they mentioned Rigel 7. I think Riker corrects him. I think Picard says Rigel 5 or something, and Riker goes, no, 7. Well, that goes right the way back to Captain Pike, as in the Cage, because that was the planet that they were on in the Cage and was featured in the Factory as well. So that's cool. One other thing I noticed is the planet that Raffi is called Metalis Prime. So obviously Terry Metalis put in a reference to himself there, which I thought was interesting. And then of course, I don't know whether you noticed, but Raffi had like a flip style communicator, I
did not notice
retro communicator, which I actually thought was weird because that's kind of a step backwards. But I guess she's on the La Serena, so she's still, using older tech, maybe. I don't know. Did I notice anything else? Oh, and one other thing, and I only picked this up because I'm a massive fan of Star Trek First Contact, and I've watched that film over and over again, and his lock code, which was Picard 47 Alpha Tango, was actually the same code that he used for the self-destruct on the Enterprise E in Star Trek First Contact, which is great. But there are those are some of the ones. There are undoubtedly others. So like I said, I'm not trying to say that we got every single one, but but there's a few there between us, right? So but I am really liking all the callbacks. I mean, it is, let's be honest, it's totally nostalgia bait for the old school Star Trek Next Gen fans that sort of complained about Picard season 1 and 2, and it's almost like Terry Metalis has come in to do some sort of damage control, I think. But we'll get into that anyway. But before we do, how many lights do you see?
There are 4 lights.
Love it. So this is again just a bit of fun. Our speculation for next week or where we think it's going or whatever. I thought there were a few lines in this that were clearly foreshadowing and setting something up. But before I waffle on, Pete, I'll let you go. So
let me waffle on. Okay.
I'd rather that.
I only had one prediction, although I'm very curious about what you think the lines are that hinted other things. But my one prediction is put on your tinfoil hat because it's going deep. I think Raffi's handler is the AI, an AI possibly connected to season 1 Picard, possibly connected to season 2 of Discovery. And we are going back to the battle between artificial intelligence and human life. And that Raffi was like, she's an unwitting double agent. She's being manipulated by artificial intelligence. And
Wow.
so she's not actually working for Starfleet like she thinks she is.
Wow, I'm loving this. Okay, interesting, because I have to admit, my theory there was that her handler is actually going to turn out to be Worf.
Oh,
But that was just kind of from some of the things she was saying, like I think they referred to a warrior or something at some point, and I thought,
yeah.
that's very
it says
Worf.
this is the start of war. You are a warrior.
Yeah. And also we know obviously Worf has got to come in this at some point. Spoiler, but
Yeah.
I mean that's the marketing, right? So,
Yeah.
but I kind of like your theory
because she goes like, you never on camera. You're always just a text based, right? And it's like super quick text responsing and bringing up her service record. And so that right away I was like, AI.
Interesting. Which actually would be kind of thinking about it a good thing, because apart from the scene at Chateau Picard with Orla Brady's character, the Romulan, love interest,
Laris,
thank you. There are essentially no references to anything from other Picards at all, and it's like, are they kind of trying to retcon the whole thing, or are they going to, link it back? And I mean, that would be a way of linking it back, wouldn't it? So interesting. Okay, I like that. Any other theories?
So the Romulan ship at the end, right, made me wonder if it was going to be also related to season 1 and the destruction of Romulus. And I kind of am hopeful for that, but I don't know. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
It might not even be a Romulan ship. Yeah.
We've got 10 episodes this season, right? So we've got quite a lot of time real estate to develop these things. And I think, obviously we'll get into this in the next section, but we talked about the first 2 seasons not really sticking the landing and feeling like they were kind of made up as they went along. But anyway, sorry, we'll get into that in the next bit. Okay, a couple of things I've put here, which I almost gave away. So Picard mentioned that Geordie works for, is it the Starfleet Museum or something? Hence why he was going to give him the painting of Enterprise D.
Correct.
Now they're going to need a ship at some point, right? Because I don't think Captain Shaw of the Titan is going to stick around to help them out, or I'm doubtful as to that. 7 of 9 or Annika what is it, Commander Hansen, as she's now going by. She's disobeyed orders and all of this sort of thing to sort of get them out that far, and they've taken the shuttle. But I'm wondering, there's a screen we see in it. I don't know whether it was one of Raffi's screens or something that says that the Enterprise F, which is obviously a ship that we haven't seen, is due to be decommissioned. And I believe that picture I've got there on the right of frame is the Enterprise F. I'm not sure, but I think that is. And I'm wondering whether, if that's been decommissioned, whether Geordie, if he's works at the museum or whatever, is able to get that ship and bring it to Picard, so they have one last adventure on an Enterprise. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It's just a thing that sort of I couldn't sleep after I'd watched the episode, so I'm there still thinking about it in my head. But
Yeah.
I just wondered that. So I don't know. So that was one thing. And then this other one is not much of a stretch, I think. So I think most people are assuming this. I'm just trying to think about the timelines there. So we've got Ed, is it Spielers? I think his name's pronounced, who's playing Beverly's son. He's obviously known from Downton Abbey, Outlander, shows like that. And it's no stretch that it's probably going to turn out that he's Picard's son, right?
Yeah.
But I've been trying to think about the timeline here because I'm obsessed with chronology and dates and ages of characters and it all making sense and whatever. So Ed Spielers is in his mid-30s, right? And apparently, the events of Nemesis were like 20 years prior to this, and that's when they haven't really spoken or seen Beverly in that time. So I think he looks a little bit too old to be like a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old or whatever, right? So
I disagree, but okay.
Okay, well but here's my sort of weird theory, and it, tell me if you think I'm being weird here, but we know that these shows like to sort of retrospectively try and fix things from previous shows. Yeah, we talked about it with the sort of eugenics war thing in the last season, and trying to make explanations for various things. Hear me out on this. So I'm wondering if season 2 of Next Generation, Beverly left and was replaced by Dr. Polanski. And obviously we know production reasons why she left. She fell out with one of the producers. She had a few film opportunities and left, and then by popular demand and Patrick Stewart managed to get her back for season 3 and everything. We know that that's a sort of age-old story now. But I'm wondering, we never really realized why Beverly left, and she was gone for a year, right? So could she have theoretically left because something happened between her and the captain, and she got pregnant by Picard and left to have the baby, and I don't know. I'm just thinking age-wise, it might work out. Then that's why
I think that would conflict though with some of the dialogue already existing in Next Gen.
Okay, quite possibly. I've not seen every episode of Next Gen, ashamedly, but I haven't. So yeah.
But did you watch those? Okay, so you and I were talking 2 weeks ago, and you found somebody had made a list of episodes to watch in preparation for season 3, right?
Yeah. We're with the stuff that's been going on the last few weeks for me. I've been crap. I haven't watched any of them. So.
That's all right. I'm sorry. In the Next Generation episode, look, I've pulled up our text thread. In the episode Attached, that's the one where they both get kidnapped and they get mentally linked to each other in the prison camp.
Right.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
And that is it's season 7, but it's the start of their romance, right?
Okay.
Is then. They definitely allude to the fact that they have never been intimate before or let it on. So it might be a little bit of a it might be a retcon that would break timeline.
Yeah. No, sure. As I said, it's a bit wild, and I haven't really.
I love it.
This is the same day, so I haven't really had a chance to think it through properly. But it was just something. It was only because I was thinking, well, he's too old to be 20 years old. But you disagree with that anyway? You think
I do? Be, right? Yeah. I didn't know how old he was. I was watching it, and I thought he was a teenager. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then that could potentially work, right? As being I'm overcomplicating it in that case, but Yeah,
love that complication though. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my. No doubt people will be like, if anybody is indeed listening to this or watching this, they'll be like, "What the hell is he talking about?" But hey,
No, it's gorgeous.
That's the point. It's just a bit of fun. So
just a bit of
anyway,
fun.
on that note, unless you've got any other speculation, I think we need to draw a line. What do you think?
Yeah, we should draw it here.
The line must be drawn here. All right, so this is where we really get into it and we talk about what we actually thought of this episode, our nitpicks, any other things we noticed or whatever, and well, we'll rank it at the end as well. But I want to let you go first, Pete.
Okay, I hated it. I really hated it. Yeah. And
okay, that was not what I was expecting you to say.
Oh, I hated it so much. I kept watching it to make sure. But
hold on, so you just to pause that or just to rewind a little bit, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just don't want our if we have an audience, I don't want them being confused here. So seasons 1 and 2, which we've covered, we were very disappointed with as a sort of follow-up because we felt that they had strong starts both seasons, but then they didn't stick the landing and they felt very made up as they went along and all of this. And when we got the buzz about what they were going to do for this season 3, we were collectively quite excited. I remember when we spoke about it at the end of last season. Of course, we've had this massive gap now, but so I just wanted to sort of go back to that a minute. So because I'm finding that you hated it quite interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It just felt like in so many ways the antithesis of Star Trek to me, right? Like I'll start at the beginning. Beverly hiding on a ship for 20 years is like it makes no sense to me, right? That she's got a giant network of confidence and friends, but instead she runs away for 20 years during a life and death situation. Makes no sense to me. In terms of like the morals, meanings, and messages that Star Trek is trying to put out there, sticking your head in the sand for 20 years by a major character is not one of them. And so it just feels like abandoning that. Having her kill these people, right, with the phasers brutally at the beginning was obviously there to make a point. And again, it just made me feel gross. Having 7 of 9 not being allowed to use her preferred name by her captain, it just felt like, well, that's gross. Like, that's just, with that one, it was like they're just trying to make the captain look bad. And it doesn't feel like Star Trek, I watched it and I was like, oh man. And then top it all off with every single bridge of a ship that we see in this episode, they cannot afford light bulbs, right? Like every single one is black. No lights. And I'm like, and historically with Star Trek, if the bridge is like that, it's a bad ship. Federation ships are bright and lit and places of truth and honesty. And then the ships that are black are when it's, been in a fight and it's broken, or when, it's a Klingon ship, right? Or and instead it's here, the refitted Titan is pitch black on the bridge.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean there, because I did think, whereas I really liked that they got the design aesthetic and all of the cars panels and also even the look of the ship from the exterior and everything. They kind of, from a production design element, I think they've kind of nailed it. They've kind of nailed the feeling of classic Trek, whether it's Next Gen or the Star Trek movies. You know, they kind of had matched the aesthetic there with the bridge and as I said, certainly the exterior of like the Titan. But I have to totally agree with you. One of the things I thought was, yeah, the cinematography, they're not actually lighting anything, and none of the colors are popping. I mean, Star Trek has always been about those sort of three primary colors, hasn't it? The red, blue, and gold, you know, for the uniforms and stuff. Yeah. They've always sort of popped, and you know, it's always been right back to the 60s, you know, a colorful show. And yeah, this looks more like what they've done sort of since Discovery, essentially, you know, with, I mean, the only one they haven't done that with is Strange New Worlds. They've completely nailed with the
I agree.
look of the show. But which again, we'll hopefully talk about season 2 of that when it gets, because we couldn't talk about season 1 because of Paramount Plus, but there you go. But yeah, so I would agree. Yeah, they've made it dark, visually dark, even though they've kind of got the design elements correct. I think they haven't lit and graded it to pop. Yeah,
it made me very angry.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
You know,
what about, okay, so because the last, I mean, I think it was a deleted scene actually, but from Nemesis, as we all know, Star Trek Nemesis was a bit of a mess and not the best movie to kind of end them on. And I believe in a deleted scene, when Riker was going to go and take command of the Titan, Beverly was going to take a job at Starfleet Medical, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have been cut out of the finished film, if memory serves. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting, you know, to start, or if you like, to sort of base the whole plot of this around Beverly is interesting, because she's always been one of those characters that many people, including the actress herself, thinks was somewhat underserved in Star Trek in general. So the fact that they're sort of building a plot around her and giving her something to do, I guess, is interesting. Obviously, in the alternate timeline of All Good Things, which I always bring up because I love All Good Things, the final episode of Next Generation. In that version of that reality, which is around this time frame, she was the captain of the USS Pasteur, right?
Yeah.
And had obviously been married to Jean-Luc in the meantime, because she was a Captain Picard. But yeah, obviously that's a different timeline where things have changed. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. So sorry, I want to push you for more. So what else about it?
Yeah, what else? Okay, so I didn't buy that Picard and Riker, their only choice to get across the galaxy would be to hoodwink a Starfleet vessel to get there, right? When, I mean, literally they ended seasons 1 and 2 on a non-Starfleet vessel being like, let's go see what's out there, right? Hey, name of the show. And so I'm like, well, where is you know, what's his name ship? He's not using it. He, you know,
Rios.
he's
Rios.
Yeah. Where's that ship? Because that ship will get you across the galaxy.
I was going to say that was what Raffi had, right? Was Raffi in?
Is it?
I don't know. I assume that, but I don't know for sure.
Why was Raffi in that ship if she's Starfleet?
And the other thing that was interesting is, of course, as well, at the end of season 1, Riker turns up with the cut and paste fleet, doesn't he? Or the copy and paste fleet. So again, he managed to get his hands on a starship then.
Also, Beverly specifically said no Starfleet vessels, right? Don't involve Starfleet. So what did he do? took a Starfleet vessel there. Like, it just seemed like they wanted to loop in Seven of Nine. They wanted her to be in Starfleet, and they wanted her captain to be bad. And it's like, okay, but well, did you have to do it like that? Right? Like, I think there are other ways to get it done, without sort of breaking, you know, the premise that part of the driving principle of why our favorite characters do what they do is because they want to improve the universe, and they want to play by the rules and make things better, right? The Star Trek isn't Deadpool or the Punisher, you know. Star Trek is Superman. And so it just felt like they were trying to be, to really mix things up. You know, they were trying to be Logan and Wolverine when they should have been Professor X. Hey, that's who it was. Yeah.
There you go. Deep cut. Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean,
what did you think? You liked
I
it?
do see where you're coming from. Well, I actually really enjoyed it, but then I kind of enjoyed it, almost embarrassingly enjoyed it, because I thought to myself, talk about course correction here. So, you know, it's almost like, my God, maybe they are listening to the fans, because we had Strange New Worlds, which obviously everybody was delighted with, me included.
Yeah.
I can't wait for a second season. Which was sort of going back to what Trek should be and going back to being episodic. Obviously, with this, we're keeping the sort of serialized narrative, but there were a lot of things that those first two seasons did, which you know, upset fans. Didn't impress the casual viewer either, and I feel like Terry Matalas has come in and really tried to fix it, but fixing it is kind of just giving it massive, huge amounts of nostalgia bait here. In fact, it's quite interesting because Patrick Stewart, who's obviously a producer on the show and is indeed a great actor, I know the first two seasons he was very involved creatively as to where they were going to take the show and where they were going to take the character. And of course, he was not about making it as a sort of sequel to The Next Generation and having the crew on a mission, right? And ironically, that's exactly now what it's become. So to please people. I mean, I kind of enjoyed this. There are a lot of Easter eggs, obviously, as we've gone through. The threat seems massive. This whole sort of, you know, almost opening a vortex and swallowing the whole of the Starfleet headquarters into the ground, but worse, having that vortex then appear above the city and dumping it on the rest of the city. I thought, wow, you know, the threat here is pretty big. Again, when they saw the ship at the end, I'm not sure. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Sinjon, which was the ship from Nemesis as well. You know, the one that at the end of Nemesis a little bit. There were silly little things that bothered me. Silly little things, like for example, when he said, "Why somebody trying to contact me on a comm badge that's 20 years old?" It's actually more than that, because if it was 20 years old, it would be the Generations Voyager style comm badge, and it would be the grey type uniform, not the burgundy and the round communicator, because that was obviously earlier Next Generation. So, but again, that's me nitpicking. That's me grasping at straws there. But that sort of bothered me. But no, I actually enjoyed the show. I liked seeing Picard and Riker together, and interesting where it goes. There was, by the way, another, I didn't point it out as an Easter egg, but it did remind me when they were in the bunk, like the cadets, the cadet bunk.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the bit again from Star Trek 6 where McCoy and Kirk are talking to one another when they're captured on rural Penty and they're in bunks.
Oh yeah.
It kind of, again, it had that sort of vibe. It amused me. Yeah, the character, Captain Shaw. I'm yeah, I mean, he comes across as a bit of a dick, but at the same time, what he said wasn't really wrong, was it? When he was saying that, he kind of had a point.
He 100% had a point. Like,
yeah,
there was nothing about that exchange where you go like, oh, what a jerk move, except for all the things that they did to make him look like a jerk. Starting dinner without him, right? Saying like, oh, I don't like you this kind of wine anyway. Forcing,
not liking the jazz.
Yeah, like all they do is make him seem terrible, so that then when he says the most rational thing in the world, no, you cannot take my ship across the galaxy on a surprise inspection that no one has told me about. He's the bad guy, because like literally, he's not the bad guy. It's not like Jellicoe, right? When he shows up in Next Generation and he starts changing things and telling Troy to wear a uniform, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you're a jerk. And then he turns out to actually be a jerk. Like this captain was Shaw, right? Is it Shaw or
Shaw? Yeah, Captain Shaw.
Captain Shaw is like, you can't just steal my ship.
Yeah.
And for that, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, which was fair. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see more. And I think it's a step with Picard. It's a step in the right direction for me. Having said that, let's be honest. The first episode of both season 1 and 2, we loved. In fact, I ranked it so highly, the season 2 opener, that it's going to kind of almost make my ranking now redundant, because I put it nowhere to go, and that series really did crash and burn, both of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know there's a lot of, I avoided all the trailers before I saw this. I was actually on another podcast where I was asked about this, and I said I've tried to avoid everything. And I know that there's a lot of videos and stuff critiquing this. Whether or not they're saying good things or bad things, I don't know, because again, I've tried to avoid it, not to be
likewise
swayed.
Just want to be fresh.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. I've got to say, that's why I was surprised when you said you hated it. I thought you were joking. I was like, really? So that's interesting. But the things you don't like about it, I completely take your point.
Yeah, what I will say, if I'm going to say some good things about it here quickly, is that I think they have built themselves places to go. Right? There is a lot to explore. There is a lot to unpack. They have a wide world to play in. Great. But I think a lot of that could be very compelling. The Raffi storyline, the Beverly storyline, there's a lot there that I'm interested in, right? But there's a lot of trappings on it that I'm just like superfluous and terrible decision. Like making it that Riker's family doesn't want to see him anymore. I was like, why? What's the point of that? What is the point of that? What do we gain from that bit? Right? That, someone who up until a year or two ago was a model parent is now not. What did he do 2 years in the past 2 years? Stop it. You're being ridiculous. You threw that in to create additional drama that there's no point to create. Yeah. Anyway,
fair enough. Well, no, that's fine. As I said, I'm surprised, but that's what makes the show good, and it's good that we don't talk beforehand so that these things are surprise and fresh and all of that sort of stuff.
I'm so glad you had a good experience with it, though.
No, I did. I mean, I really did.
I'm so glad you did, because we were talking, like right before you watched it, and you'd been like, "Oh, bad news, not feeling great," and then I had to bite my tongue because I was like, I don't want to tell him lower your expectations for Picard. Right?
No, I mean, it was kind of the lift I needed, but
good.
But, I can nitpick it. It wasn't perfect, but
yeah,
this is just episode 1 of 10. So
1 of 10.
We've got
the next generation.
And so far, we've only seen, out of the original crew, 3 of them, right? Yeah, 3 of them so far, plus Raffi and Seven, and introduced to another couple of characters and stuff. But we still got a long way to go. Be interesting to see where it goes. The lighting thing I totally agree with, though. I did actually think that. I think that's the only thing that makes this, because I thought they kind of was nailing the feel of the next gen and the movies in terms of the design and the music and all of that, and of course loads of little references to those things, but it didn't feel like it was lit appropriately for that, but there you go. So I'm going to ask you then, in our rank pin rating, what are you putting this as?
So I think I ranked episode 1 of season 2 as a commander, right? Or
I think I went full on captain.
I think you went full captain. Yeah. But I remember going commander and then slowly going down.
Yes.
As we got
I think it ended up below an ensign, didn't it?
I do remember calling the last episode a cadet.
Yeah.
But I think I am going to be comfortable calling this a lieutenant junior grade.
Okay. Wow. Quite low though.
Quite low.
I mean, I think I made the mistake last time of going to the captain straight away, so I'm being a little bit more cautious this season, but I'm going to give it a commander because it was pretty up there for me. I enjoyed it. I thought it nailed a lot of things nicely, and I had a good time watching it. So we'll put it as commander, so there's still room to grow. But I'm going to go with that for now.
All right. I wanted to ask you one thing about it to see if you understood it.
Yeah.
Did you pick up? Sorry, I got to look it up.
I've only seen it once.
Yeah, but they have some discussion about Deep Space 4 versus Deep Space 11.
Yes.
Was that a reference to anything?
I know it was kind of, that was when Captain Shaw first smelt a rat because Picard got it wrong. He said Deep Space 4, and Deep Space 4 apparently had been shut down for over a year. And then it was like, oh, no, I meant Deep Space 11. So I think that was just, I don't think that was necessarily a reference to anything. I think it was just a plot contrivance, if you like, to make just to try and add a bit of tension, I think, to that scene. I don't know. I might be wrong with that, but that was how I read it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Fair enough. One other thing I wanted to mention before we sort of wrap it up, because I just think it's very fair to, is I wanted at the end. It was dedicated to Annie, referring to Annie Wershing, who obviously played the Borg Queen last season, and has been in lots of things. Like I knew her from 24, which was a series I was a big fan of, etc. She was also in Bosch and Timeless and all sorts of shows, and I believe her acting debut was as a guest star on Star Trek Enterprise. In fact,
I think so.
Back in the day, But yeah, really sad. She died at just 45 years of old, leaving behind a husband and 3 children. And it was through cancer that she was diagnosed with in 2020. I don't want to go all into it now, but I literally lost someone this week, a good friend who died of cancer. So I really did want to mention that about Annie Wershing here, because the episode they did dedicate to her at the end. I don't know whether you picked up on that just before the credits.
I did, yeah. It said for Annie, yeah.
Yeah. So very, very sad. Very, very, very recent as well, just at the end of January there. But yeah, she was one of the highlights of season 2 from my perspective. But yeah, I just thought I thought it was only fair to mention that as well. So yeah, thoughts are with her family, and we remember her career. Yeah. Okay, I don't mean to end it on such a somber note. I think let's just have a look at where people can get in touch. So let's open a channel.
Sorry. So I've been Pete Mealy. You can find more of my work, I guess, on Twitter at Too Many E's. I don't know. I haven't been on there in months, but check it out. You can, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you found Let's See What's Out There. Check out the stream on Home Media Minefield. If you're watching the stream, check out the podcast. Let's See What's Out There on all good podcasting apps. Send us an email at lswotcast@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at lswotcast. Keith, where can people find more of you and your work?
Yeah, well, if you're watching us here on YouTube, you obviously know this channel, Home Media Minefield. Check out some of the other work on there, as I said, as well as live streams and vodcasts about various movies and TV shows. I also cover physical media on here, home media. And I, for example, do have a playlist of Star Trek on physical media. My first episode for this channel was, in fact, looking at the Blu-ray collection of Star Treks 1 through 6. So, yeah, please do check that out on this channel. We also I've covered The Mandalorian as well on this channel. So when season 3 comes in a couple of weeks' time, I will be joined by co-host Graham Williams to look at each episode of that as well in the same sort of format as we're doing here. So if you've enjoyed this and you like Star Wars as well, please do check that out. If you want to see my creative work, I do have another channel, which is British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. And there's some short films that I've made on there, an anthology series called The Urban Chiller Tales. So please check that out. And finally, I just wanted to say thank you to Neil Myers for our theme music. Neil's work can be found at neilmyersmusic.com. And I think that's about it, really.
Yeah,
for this week. So
thank you for thank you, Keith, for starting this. Thanks for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, I got to get my groove. I felt a bit rusty today. I'm not going to lie, but we'll get into the groove with it soon.
The episode was a bit rusty, so it fits.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks ever so much for watching. As I said, any comments, please do put it in the section below. We welcome it, and we will see you next time on
Let's See What's Out There.
Bye for now.